Go live. Boom.
Stuff going. So I just kind of didn't worry about it. I even have a really cool Austrian jersey.
All right, Ed, we are live. And I just want to start off today. We're going to talk about building some influence in authority in an industry so that you get invitations. Now, the way it works, most speakers are stuck in the same loop. They book a gig, they deliver the gig, and then they chase the next gig. And that's, not very efficient. And today we're going to show you how to get around that by building some authority. So, Ed, why don't you start us off?
Jump in, yeah. So here's the overarching umbrella of what I'm going to talk about today. It's called specialize deeply and diversify strategically. So the specialize deeply means burrow in, burrow in, burrow in. The diversify, the strategically is about, having two, three, four industries that you really, you know, uh, burrow down deeply into. But what I want to talk about specifically today is something that I observed this happening. A speaker, and this tends to be a speaker that's a gig chaser. And when I say a gig chaser, that means to me a speaker that'll just go anywhere, speak any industry,
Speech will travel.
maybe on their topic, maybe on any topic. I don't know, but it just so I want to differentiate between a gig chaser and somebody that's trying to specialize and build authority. But the gig chasers, here's what tends to happen. They pride themselves in doing as many talks as possible in a week, and they parachute in, speak, and jettison out. Well, you're leaving so much money on the table. And so think about it. You go in and you speak. Do you have a strategy? And that strategy has to start before you go speak. So when you set up the engagement, are you talking with the whoever your contact is, whether it be the meeting planner or somebody else? Are you talking with them about, hey, who else should I meet at this meeting that's an influencer or that is a economic buyer for a different department in your organization or to other organizations? So, you want to do that. Now, something that you can do is offer, if it's a trade association, offer, hey, would you like me to come in a day early, do a talk for your board of directors? Well, right there, it's okay, you give them a free talk, you make a contribution to the industry, but what you're going to get in return for that contribution is you're going to get connected to quite a number of influencers that can then introduce you to others. So I would encourage professional speakers to think about this. If you think about burrowing in deeply, you when you're putting the contract together, see if you can work out things within your contract that help you to meet others. Now, remember, if it's a trade association and it's like an annual meeting, don't forget they usually have uh, um, an education department, which would be a different buyer. Many times they'll have other national meetings like a annual marketing meeting, an annual leadership meeting, so forth and so on. Even today, a lot of them are starting to have annual AI meetings. And then also, well, what about the chapters? Does the association have chapters? And do they have an annual chapter executive director meeting? So you've got to learn before you go speak at, let's just say, Association A, whatever that is, and go, what are all the other possibilities? Because most association speeches, they're rich. And let's back up just a little bit and remind everybody, a lot of people think that the association speech, the keynote, is the finish line. Well, I look at it, the association keynote is just the starting gate. And this is where it opens you up to all these other possibilities. But if you're the gig chaser and you parachute in and jump out, you don't have time. So if you cool your jets just a little bit, and if you want to specialize deeply and diversify strategically, then what you're going to do is you're going to spend more time looking for additional opportunities within that association. And remember, that association is also the gateway to that industry. So you want to look at, okay, if I'm speaking at an association meeting, are there other executive directors from other related associations there? Because they tend to attend each other's conferences. And for many of those interviews that I did for the ASSC, the decision makers say that, yeah, it's very common for us to attend other conferences within our industry, and we find speakers that way. And so, it's how strategically are you? Do you have a checklist of what you can possibly access?
I
So,
so like that's totally brilliant because I was thinking I was having the same discussion with somebody else just the yesterday, and they were speaking at one of the big construction, the big overarching construction association, whatever it is. They were there last week.
it could be ABC, Associated Building Contractors, or it could be National Association of Home Builders, or it could be AGC, Associated
AGC, it
General
was AGC.
Contractors,
It
AGC.
was AGC. So it's like, oh, I met a whole bunch of people. So what is your plan to turn that into more business? And they didn't have one. And it's like, well, I sent a couple emails. It's like really kind of, they weren't doing the work. And obviously after we talked, they're going out, they're doing a lot more than just that. But I think there's the Uberization of speakers where we come in, the gig chaser, right? You just come in, you do your job, and then you leave, right? And that's the whole, hey, I want the keynote. It's the big, it's the sexy. Everybody wants the
Yeah,
keynote.
yeah,
But you come in, you do your keynote, you collect your check, and you leave. Like where is the opportunity to grow your business there?
yeah.
Now, and
Well,
that's just and
and
one
you're leaving so much money on the table.
well, and that's the thing. If you're gonna be there for a keynote, to offer them a breakout on the same subject where you're going deeper. So like there's a difference between keynotes and breakouts, and a lot of speakers conflate the two. But there's a 60,000 foot view and a 30,000 foot view. So if you do a keynote and it's a great keynote and you offer them to do, I'll do a breakout and go deeper in that a little bit later in the same day. Same day is important. Anybody who follows you from the big room to the small room is a highly engaged prospect. They are the people that are most likely to say, Ed, I want you to come in and speak to my company. Or Ed, I want you to come and speak to my association if it's a related association. And I think a lot of us don't think like that. We're not strategic or about where's our revenue coming from. And again, that leads to a lot of stress and a lot of burnout because you're back to zero after every gig.
Yeah. Two things I want to throw out there. Number one thing I want to throw out at you, when you do your presentation, whether it's a keynote or a breakout, whatever, it doesn't matter. You want to have, if it's 45 minutes to an hour, you want to have at least 3 stories peppered into your talk where you bring up a point or a problem and go, one of my clients in the construction world had this problem. Here's how we solved this problem, and here's now what they were able to do. So rather than having people come up to you and say, do you do this? Do you do that? If they come up and say that, you didn't do your job as a speaker. But if they come up to you and say, oh, you mentioned that you helped a uh, a company in construction, we've got that same problem. Can you come and help us? So I want to make it a point to get that out that a speaker, if they're not having a good 3 stories talking about the various things they can do, they're missing the point. The other thing I want to go back to the person you said you were talking to with AGC, because I'm very familiar with Associated General Contractors. If that person is going to go do a talk for AGC, did they go to their website and realize that AGC has over 50 chapters in the United States? In California alone, where I am, there's 3 chapters. So there's that. Did they find out that AGC at their annual meeting has a luncheon where all the executive directors from all the state chapters come in and have a lunch. Great place to speak. Did they realize that at AGC's website they have the listing of all the chapters?
Oh,
Did they realize at AGC's website you can find the director of education? So if you are going, as an example, AGC is a good
yeah,
example.
we just use
If
that.
you're going to go speak at AGC, Associated General Contractors, if you spend some time at their website, you're already going to know, okay, I've got to find out about who's in charge of the executive director luncheon. I've got to find out who is the education person. I've got to find out, are there any other executive directors from related industries there? I also got to find out if you use my method of going in the back door through the editor, you don't have to find out who the editor is. But if you didn't use that method, you got to make sure you find out who the editor is because you want to make contribution to the industry by trying to get as many articles as you can in their publication because you receive benefit on the other side of that contribution because of the authority that that contribution has. And I want to say one other thing, and then I'm going to shut up and give you the floor for a minute. Um, I think that also when somebody's going in, like this person with AGC, you want to be able to talk to some influencers and some executives at AGC and ask, what are ways in which you believe I can contribute to your industry, not your association, to your industry? And some of those contributions may be for pay. Some, oh, forgot to plug my telephone. Some might not be for pay. It doesn't matter. But if you're thinking about specialize deeply, then you want to look at how do I burrow in deeper, 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 deeper into this industry through this association, because there are other associations in the industry that I have to connect to also. So I think that that's an important factor. Anyway, what are your thoughts on all this?
I've got a question. You mentioned earlier about doing the like an executive director luncheon, like kind of pre-con. Now, for some of the bigger associations, it'd be the chapter leadership. It's the first time, like their national meeting is when the new chapter leaders would come in. Would you offer a pre-con
Yeah,
for
you got to be careful of chapter leadership because generally, and every association is different, but generally, chapter leadership are the volunteer leaders. They they sometimes have the ability to bring speakers in, sometimes not. If you're there and they ask you to speak at a chapter leadership luncheon, what the hell, why not? But
Would you
even
make that
better,
would you make that a part of your offer though, to kind of sweeten the deal by getting the signed contract?
and I think that a lot of speakers realize it's better to add more value than to lower your price.
Hmm.
Okay, let's just come up with a number. Let's say you're talking and you say, my fee is $10,000. Well, we don't know if we have that. Well, I understand. How much do you have? Well, we got 65, $7,500. Well, then you go, well, what about other pockets? Because other departments have pockets, budget pockets, budgetary pockets. They have money, they have pockets of money somewhere else and go, well, something, suppose we did something for the education department and maybe they could pitch in to help. Suppose we did something for the chapter liaison department and they could pitch some money in. Now you can come up to my $10,000 fee and I'll do something for these other groups and that'll save them having to bring somebody in. So in the long run, it would be less expensive for them. So I think you can, but part of it is kind of having an understanding. Okay, so if I'm there speaking, what are the target rich that I think I can get the most leverage? In that association, if they have a director of education, definitely. In that association, if they have some kind of state chapter executive director meeting, luncheon, anything like that, definitely. If you haven't connected with the editor, the director of publications, whatever, definitely. What about executive directors from other associations that are allied, that are related? Definitely. Now going down from there, okay, if there's a chapter leadership, maybe not, because again, a lot of the chapter leadership, they may or may not have the ability to hire. So you kind of have to have a pecking order of
Mhm.
what you want to go after first. And I think that every speaker should have a checklist, especially when they're talking to whoever they're talking to about the booking. Go, you know, have a checklist of other things that you can do to create value for other departments at that meeting to maybe come up with the budget, and also other things that they can do that if you have to come up with a discount, maybe it's like, okay, it would be worth giving you a $1,000 discount if you introduce me to 5 executive directors at that conference that are the executive directors or CEOs
Mhm.
of allied associations. Well,
That's $1,000.
that
Yeah.
could be $10,000 a hit to you or
Yeah.
more. So, but I want to get speakers to think about, and let me just say this: if you want to be a gig chaser, and that's your life and that's your joy, God bless you, do it. Understand that the price you will pay to be a gig chaser is next year, the year after, and the next 20 years. You're going to have to work just as hard, maybe harder, to get the same number of bookings. Conversely, if you want to work in a few industries, go deep, become an authority in that industry, every year it gets a little bit easier to get bookings because all of a sudden invitations start coming to you.
Now,
And so,
no, go ahead. Finish your thought. Finish your
so I
thought.
was just going to finish up that and I can think of many of my friends from the National Speakers Association. They're in their 60s right now that had a really nice career gig chasing. And right now, they don't have the energy to market and they have no business. And I can think of other people. Um, I'll use Naomi Rhodey. She's retired, but when I first met her a million years ago, I thought, oh, how quaint. She speaks to dentists. And 2, 3, 4 years later, I learned that Naomi Rhodey and Jim Rhodey owned the dentistry
Oh
industry. I
yeah.
mean, they owned it, and they had their smart practice, and they had old business selling to the dentists, supplies and stuff. And I mean, it's from my misunderstanding, my erroneous belief of, oh, how quaint she speaks to dentists, to where I realized later that she owned the industry. So I think that, I've seen over the years of my membership in NSA, I've seen people like Naomi and others that specialize deeply, and their business just kept growing with less marketing. And I've seen others, and I'm not going to name others, that I've seen that are in their 60s now, and they're still a good speaker, they're still a relevant speaker, but they're just too tired to do the marketing, and they don't have any business.
Well, I was talking to Jenny D. St. George. I'm just going to name drop now. I was talking to Jenny D. St. George last week. I just sent her an email out of the blue. I didn't see it. I know I've known Jenny for years, um, and great relationship with her, but I hadn't talked to her in a while. And she's not a young lady, and so I wanted to check in on her. Not retired, and I think she's beyond 60. Let's just say that she is not a young lady, but she's on her way to Dubai. And she's still taking gigs. And she's similar to Naomi. Her business was dentists. And I worked with her. She had a whole big, dentists have crazy amounts of money. Now,
Yep.
my question to you is, how do you pick the niches that you're going to pursue? Like, you don't just open up the big book of industries and go, I'm going to do these three. What would be your recommendation to choosing those niches and getting those niches
There's a
solved?
couple of perspectives. Got 2 perspectives on that. Perspective number one: from where did you come? And a lot of people get into the speaking bit. And I was just talking to I'm not going to mention any names, an ASSC member that she has a tremendous background in one area, but recently she's got a lot of education in a completely different area that has nothing to do with it. And she abandoned what she has all of her credibility in for this new thing. And the new thing, she's getting interest, but very, very low fees.
Mm.
So, so it's like the discussion was, well, why did you abandon what you have all the credibility in? Well, because this is cool and they love me. Okay. So where did you come from? What is your background? What industries have you worked in? It's very logical that that or those industries would be very good to pursue. And then number two, industries to some degree self-select. And I think a lot of speakers early in their career, you're a gig chaser because you're just trying to figure it out. And like at the National Speakers Association, I don't know if I've ever seen any education on build authority. It's always on gig chasing. And no harm, no foul, but that's kind of typical. So as you're in your early career and you're gig chasing, you know, you're going to start noticing that some industries are going to reach out to you. And we've talked about before, a good place to showcase your talent is to state societies of association executives. So if you can get on a program at any of the state society of association executives, well, your audience is going to be 50 to 200 executive directors. Well, the people that come to you, they're going to self-select. They're going to come to you and say, my industry or my association needs what you have. So I think that people have to be more alert to listening to what the universe is telling you. Sometimes we're so loud and we're so busy and we're in such a hurry, we can't listen to the universe. And the universe is telling you, what's your background? That's a great place to start, not a place to abandon, a place to start. Secondarily, find the opportunities where there's a wide range of industries in the room to where those and do your presentations and those industries can gravitate to you.
Like, that's a great place to kind of, I think, put a stop in it this week. Maybe next week we talk about the Society of Association Executives and how to approach those groups. Because I think for a lot of the people that would be watching this, they may not have ever heard of societies of association executives, but every state has one. And if you can get if you can get 50 to 100 people in a room that are all decision makers, that's a webinar worth doing. That's
Yeah, well, not even a webinar. I mean, I,
oh,
oh no, I would push. We can talk more about this next week, but I mean, we're 5 years past COVID, so almost all of the state society of association executives they're having their live meetings again. They've been for the last few years, and and there's going to be most of their meetings are 2 days, sometimes 3 days. And Florida Society of Association Executives got their meeting this month. We're in July 2026. They have their meeting this month, their annual meeting. California, which is now called Associations West, they have their meeting, I think, in April. So if you reach out to these organizations, even if you don't get the keynote at their annual meeting, they've got a lot of breakout slots. And a breakout slot is just fine. And then let's face it, the strategy that you have if you have a breakout for any conference is walk around with postcards or handbills telling people about your session and invite people in. I mean, that's just duh. And not enough speakers do that because speakers kind of are shy. Speakers that get on the stage, they're shy. They
we
really
need,
are.
we need
Most
a
speakers
town
are.
crier. You need the
Yeah,
town crier
yeah,
outfit. Just kind of go
yeah.
around, come to my event.
But but we can talk about that, and I think that the SAEs, the Society of Association Executives, they're a really really good place for, especially for speakers with a good topic and good platform skills to expose their message to a wide range of industries And, what makes more sense than let people come to you? That's one of the best ways. So we can talk more about that next week.
I love it. Now we've got next week's topic. Everybody has a reason to come back next week. Okay. Ed, thanks very much. Everybody
You're
else,
welcome.
we'll see you next week. Oh, we should do a pitch for the ASSC. So, guys, Ed and
Yeah.
I, we run the speakercommunity.org. We are the Association and Society Speakers Community. Basically, all we're doing is focused on getting you into association audiences and giving you the tactics and strategies to get you hired and get your business moving. So there we go. I think that was a nice pitch. Is there any other pitch you'd like me to make before
Well,
we?
I think that here's the interesting thing. I think for speakers, if they need help, they want help. If they want access to URI, the only way they're going to get it is through being a member of the ASSC. So, I mean, there is that.
Hey, you don't have a
And
$20,000 program you don't want to sell them?
no, yeah, I don't. I'm not. No, I don't. I guess I should have gone into magic potions 101 when I started in the speaking business.
Yeah, I think when I see some of the I hear some of the stories, I think maybe we were maybe not in the right part of this business. All right, Ed. Thanks very much, guys. We will see you next week, and that's it. Let me stop the live stream, and there we go. Okay, that was good.